it's always going to hold them back unless they keep it in check. River Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. Today, I really wanted to talk about something that holds probably most people back who are listening to this. I would say that you are probably holding yourself back because of these things. Now, this came up because I see this happening almost every day on social media. Now, I try not to get into reading people's comments and stuff like that. I do every now and again. I used to, because I would look at the human behavior element of why people comment and why they do what they do. But what you'll find is that most people who spend their time in other people's comments, commenting negatively, normally do so because they're driven by stress. They're driven by conflict. And a lot of the time when somebody does it, it's just their insecurity that they're dealing with. Let's say that someone is scrolling through Facebook, they see someone with a Ferrari and they go, this makes me feel insecure. I feel like I'm not enough, but I don't know how to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up in anger. I'm going to wrap it up in frustration. It's going to trigger me in some way, shape, or form. And so now I have the urge to comment to remind them that they are less than me. Now, the only reason why somebody does that is because they're pedestaling that person or looking up to that person. I mean, if you think about this, if I'm walking down the street and someone calls me or someone calls you a purple spotted frog, okay, a purple spotted frog, you just sit there and you're like, man, that person's on crack, and you just keep walking, right? You don't care. There's no trigger. There's nothing there unless they confront you or they are verbally really aggressive towards you, like the tonality may trigger you. The person, if they are running towards you or something like that, may trigger you. But if it's just some weird person on the side of the road that, you know, calls you a purple spotted frog, you're just like, man, that person's out of their mind, and you just keep walking and you don't really think about it, right? Afterwards, you're probably like, that was a bit weird, and then it's gone. But if, let's say, for example, you look in the mirror and you notice that you have these flabby bits and you're feeling overweight, right? You're feeling like you're not at the standard that you set with your physical body. And then you're walking down the street and someone looks at you and they go, wow, you look like you put on a bit of weight. That thing there will trigger you. Now, it may be a slight trigger. It may be enough of a trigger so that when you go home that night, you're like, fucking hell, maybe I've put on a little bit of weight. Maybe I need to do something. And it keeps popping up in your mind. Now, if you're highly triggered, let's say you're obese, you know that you need to lose a fair whack of weight. You keep reminding yourself weekly for years that you need to lose weight, but you're not doing anything. And I come up to you and I just call you a fat pig. Now, all of a sudden, you're sitting there like, I can't believe that he said that. I can't believe anyone would ever do that. And so you have this major trigger. It's not because of what I said. It's because you believe that it's true because it is a trigger for you. Now, if I am lean and fit, you then, if you choose not to believe that thing, what you'll do is you've actually pedestaled me. So if you look at me and I'm fit and healthy and I'm looking good and I'm feeling good, and I walk up to you and you're looking at me and you're going, wow, that guy's like healthy, fit, looking good. And I come along and I go, man, you're a fat pig. Now all of a sudden you have pedestaled me, but now because you feel like you've been depreciated or put down, you now have to pull me down to that level where you feel like you reside. And so in our society, a lot of people's triggers are because they pedestal others. If you have a nice car, somebody is going to have to put it down. Somebody's going to have to talk a little bit of smack about you because they see that you have a nicer car than them. And it triggers them, not because of you, but because they partially pedestal you. They look and they go, I want a better car, and they don't have one. So when they see someone with a better car, they have to logically justify their emotions. So this is an important part of sales. Anyone who's good with sales or marketing know that people buy through emotion and then they justify with logic. So when people say, well, this isn't an emotional purchase, that's bullshit. Everyone buys because of their emotions. We spend money every day of the week on our emotional state. I mean, people buy food and then they buy more than what they need. Normally when they buy food, they buy it because of what they feel like eating. Or, you know, even today, you're probably eating because of what you feel like eating, not what makes logical sense based on your goals. Sometimes we get triggered in the car, not because it's logical, but because that's how we feel. So people buy through their emotions and then they justify it with logic. So what tends to happen is when someone is triggered, they will be triggered emotionally and then they justify it with logic. So if you're doing better financially than somebody, they will then be triggered in most cases if they're insecure, which is almost everybody. They will be triggered by you having more money than them, and then they'll justify it by logic. So what they do is they start looking for logical reasons. And then what I wanted to do this episode about was skepticism. So most people become hyper skeptical the more judgmental and critical they become of others. But the only reason why they're judgmental and critical is because of their judgment and criticism of themselves and putting themselves down because they know that they are not stepping up to their own standards. This is why my framework for all my events and everything that I do is clarity times by standards plus environment equals success or equals results or equals fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. Because if you don't have clarity, you can't have high standards. Like if I say I want to lose weight, well, how much? Do I just want to lose weight and strip off all my muscle by not eating well? Or do I want to keep my muscle mass and lose weight slowly or lose body fat slowly so that I can maintain my muscle mass but get more lean or get more ripped or whatever you want to call it? So you have to have clarity around what you want. Some people say, well, I want to get ahead financially. Okay, cool. How much? Is that $1? Is that $2? Is that this month? Is that next week? So sometimes I used to do this with my team. I would say, guys, we need to get more sales this week. We need to bring more people into the pipeline. And my team would come back and they're like, I just got a sale today. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is really good. I got a sale. I kicked this person across the line. Like they've been sitting on the fence for ages. And that they were excited. I was excited. And I go, awesome. What was the sale price? And they go, oh, they bought a $300 product, but they got to pay $50 a month over 6 months. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. But it's because I spoke to them and I said that we need to increase sales, but I didn't say how much. I didn't say to them, what the collected cash flow numbers are. And this can also be a fault with a lot of you out there who are business owners, who are business leaders, who are managers. Sometimes this happens with families as well. If you have kids, this can be the same thing that happens. You say to the kids, clean up the house. Their idea of cleaning up the house is completely different to yours. So coming back to skepticism, people become skeptical because they judge themselves harshly. They're not where they want to be. So they become hypercritical of others. And then now they feel skeptical of everything. So they see something and it says, earn an extra $1,000 a month. And they sit there and they go, well, that's got to be bullshit. Like, why would somebody teach somebody else how to make an extra $1,000 a month? This has to be rubbish. And then so they'll get in the comments and they go, well, this is crap. Like, why would anyone teach? It's just their skepticism. I mean, I've learned lots of stuff. In fact, I just spent probably an extra $3,000 or $4,000 in the last 24 hours just buying a couple of different courses and programs on some human behavior stuff that I'm studying at the moment in regards to marketing. So looking at human triggers, looking at human responses in regards to marketing. So I just love studying psychology. I love studying human behavior. And that's why I help so many business owners. I help so many people with their health. I help so many people with their relationships, because what you'll find is that there is a massive crossover between all those elements. Even in business, if you have a look at it, marketing is just human behavior. Sales is human behavior. Leadership is human behavior. Management is human behavior. And all of them have different triggers. They have different keywords that you'll need to use. There's so many things that you need to learn about human behavior. Even just, I was speaking to a business owner last week and we were talking about the difference between management and leadership. And then also the difference between coaching people, teaching people, and leading people. And he didn't know the difference because he'd never been taught. And when I went through it, he said, shit, I'm trying to lead people, but through a management visor, and then I'm teaching them things. But when I'm teaching them, I'm not really managing them or leading them properly. And so it's just creating all this confusion in my business because of how I'm communicating. And I said, no shit, most people just don't know this stuff. Coming back to the triggers, your triggers and people's triggers are going to be a direct reflection of their own criticisms, and it keeps them safe. Remember, survival is a primitive need. So when people have a primitive psychology or they drop into a primitive psychology due to fear, they're naturally going to be more critical because it keeps them safe. So again, someone scrolling through Facebook, this is no shit. I have this stuff happen every week. Someone sees my McLaren on social media, like one of either my team or the marketing agency we're using, run an ad. And there's a photo of me in my car. Now, I don't really choose what people want to click on. We just test different things and some things work more than others. So sometimes some of our ads work better when my car's on there. And straight away, they're in the comment section. Oh, this guy's a scammer. Guaranteed he rips people off. Bet he has no qualifications. Just another coach in it for a quick buck. Oh, I bet the car's rented. Now, do you know how silly that is? Because first of all, if the car was rented, how does it have my number plates on it with Mr. Mojo? Number one, just things like that. If I was in it for a quick buck, how come I've been in the coaching industry for 20 years now? 20 years, right? That doesn't happen just because of I'm just here for a quick buck. My podcast, I was actually talking to the owner of a company called Podmatch. And Podmatch is one of the biggest podcasting connection platforms where it connects speakers with people who have podcasts. I was chatting to the owner of that company and they have, tens of thousands of people with podcasts on there and speakers and industry experts and all that sort of stuff. On there, they release statistics. The statistics blew my mind. I think less than 1% of podcasters have more than 200 podcast episodes or 100 podcast episodes, something like that. I'll have to go back and have a look at those statistics. But I think the average podcast only does anywhere between 5 to 20 podcasts, like the average. So people start a podcast because they think it's a great idea and then they bail. Anyway, my point here is that if I was in this for a quick buck and they actually did a little bit of research, I think I'm already 400 and something episodes into this podcast. I would have given up like everybody else. Only a couple of weeks ago, I ran my Thrive Time event. And straight after that, I'd been speaking for 4 days. Now, at the event, I'm normally available between, I think it goes from 10 until 6:30 at night time. Then I go out with a couple of the participants or a couple of my Business Growth Odyssey clients who attend the events. And so I'll go out with people. And I do this for 4 days. And on the Sunday night, we had a coaching call, right? It's my business coaching call for my Business Growth Odyssey clients. And also the clients that I coach who are coaches as well. So up and coming coaches or people who are entering the industry, I coach them on how to monetize their business, how to create the right products and programs, how to make sure they're onboarding the right customers, how to market themselves properly, all of those things. So anyway, the event finishes. I just start packing up my stuff and I go, shit, I got to hop on the coaching call. So I open my laptop and I started the coaching call again. So I've just spent the whole day speaking from 10 a.m. in the morning till 6:30 at night. And at 7 o'clock was my coaching call. So after everybody's leaving and they're all, giving me a hug, taking photos, shaking hands, all that sort of shit, everyone just leaves. I just put some stuff in my bag and I go, bang, I got to be on the coaching call. And a whole bunch of the clients who were on there went, holy shit, we can't believe that you actually hopped on here to do it because you must be exhausted. And I was like, I am, but I got to be here. I've committed to this. I'm here for you guys. That's why I do what I do. So a lot of people who are skeptical miss seeing all those triggers, miss seeing all those things that happen behind the scenes because they don't investigate, they don't explore. They just put a big blanket wall up in order to keep themselves safe. So it's almost like a confirmation bias. Now, people have these positive confirmation biases. Let's say we're walking through the jungle. You're better off seeing something that you think is moving and you think is there and it not being there for your survival than you are not seeing it and then getting attacked by it. So if you're walking through the grass, the big grass shrubs, and all of a sudden you hear something and you see some movement, you're better off reacting to that situation than not reacting. So what tends to happen is people have these positive confirmation biases or these confirmation biases where they will create a false interpretation of something that's not there as a safety mechanism. And humans do this all the time through their reactions and their fears. So if you've ever been driving and someone's in the passenger seat, you're driving along and the next second a car's coming up and you see them and they're starting to slow down and you notice it. But all of a sudden they turn around, they go, oh, be careful. And they've freaked out because they've had a positive confirmation bias about something that's about to happen that they don't really understand, but they're better off reacting, feeling unsafe, getting that out than they are not seeing it and being in the car crash, if that makes sense. So we just have to control those things because people in this day and age are more skeptical than ever because there is so much bullshit around. It's like us walking through the savannah going hunting and you walking through a spot where you know that there are lions, tigers, wildebeest, everything like that, snakes, and you know they're all in this area. You naturally have this heightened response. Most people live with a heightened response to fear, to worry, to concern, to negativity. So now what happens is they start scrolling through social media and they see everything as bullshit. They see everything as a lie. They see everything as a problem. And so now they become hyper reactive and hyper responsive. So they become hypercritical of everybody. Someone comes up and shakes their hand and they're like, what does that motherfucker want? Like, they must want something. Now, that's an extreme case, but it happens, right? I've met people like that. If you've ever hung out with someone who does crime or does things illegally, they are hyper responsive to that. And I've had friends who have been in the crime world, in the underworld, and they're like that. They just don't trust anybody. They think everyone is out to get them. They can't sleep at night time because they know that they're about to either get raided by the police or murdered by someone who is trying to get what they've got, or at least kidnap them or extort them. So they just become hyper responsive to everything. Now, that's an extreme, but my question to you is, where do you sit on that scale? How hyper responsive are you to skepticism? How skeptical are you of everything? How much convincing do you need to do something? And then how much is that holding you back? Because if you're hyper skeptical, you're probably not going to take action to move forward towards the goals that you want, because you're better off saying no to everything and staying safe than you are saying yes to some things and maybe making a mistake or maybe being taken advantage of. This is the same reason why someone who's never done anything in their life will tell people, they'll use these words. See, I told you. I told you. That's exactly what hyper skeptical people say. They will watch you play the game, and then they'll sit there and they go, see, I told you. I knew it wouldn't work. I knew that they would rip you off. I knew that it was a scam. They fucking didn't know anything. They're just hypercritical of everything. They never turn around and say, you know what? I was wrong. I was hyper skeptical and it did work. They will never say that. They will just point out all the things that don't work because they're hyper triggered. If you come home and you complain about somebody at work, they say, see, I never liked that person anyway. Right? That's hypercritical. So just be very, very careful of doing that in your own mind, because it is 100% guaranteed to hold you back. And most of you who are listening to this are hyper skeptical, because if you're not where you want to be, my question is, why not? I was talking to a business owner about 4 or 5 weeks ago. This person wanted to grow their business. They're doing okay in business. They've got a couple of $1 million revenue a year. And we sit down, we have breakfast. There was him and his business partner. And so we're talking about where their growth is. They said, we've been following you for years. We've watched your journey as well. It's quite impressive. And so we go through it. I say, look, jump on board Business Growth Odyssey. Yep, that's exactly what we want. Send me through some information. I send through some information. They come back to me and they're like, oh, look, do you have any testimonials of clients? I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll send them through. So I sent through a bunch of testimonials. Do you have a client that we can speak to directly so that we can ask them direct questions? I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll get one of them to give you a call. So one of my clients has called them for 2 to 3 weeks, and twice now they've put it off and they haven't spoken to them. And I'm like, this is a person who is hyper skeptical. They've been following me for years. They've seen my growth. They've seen the testimonials I've posted. They've seen the people talking about their results that they've got online. They now have caught up with me one-on-one in person. They've gone, yep, this sounds exactly what we need. They've discussed all of their problems. I send them the testimonials that they want. Then they say, I want one of your guys to call one of my guys, which I never do, right? Like, it was only because that afternoon I was sitting with one of my clients and I said, hey, look, I've got these guys. Can you give them a call? He said, look, man, you've helped me so much. Like, this guy's business has grown massively and his team are phenomenal. He went away for a couple of weeks and his team just ran the whole company because of what we set up in the last 6 to 12 months. Now, this guy calls them as a favor to me. The guy kept, I'm busy now, if you can call me tomorrow. Calls him tomorrow. Oh yeah, look, like I'm heaps keen to have a chat. Call me back later. Calls him back. Doesn't answer the phone. Doesn't answer for a couple of weeks. Oh, look, I'll get back to you. Doesn't. This is just someone who is hypercritical, wants to know everything before making a decision. But at the same time, in business, these people are highly driven and highly motivated by money. They're not highly motivated by growth. And so if they can make more money, they feel like they're doing better. But the problem is that their self-worth and their self-validation is attached to money. When money goes, it will destroy their self-worth. And the majority of you who are listening to this, who are business owners, will be attached to money. When you make money, you'll feel great. When you make sales, you'll feel awesome. When money drops, you'll feel like shit. You'll be more triggered. You'll be more mentally and emotionally reactive. That is because your self-worth comes through money and comes through business growth. That's it. Now, if you do that, your mental health will be like a fucking roller coaster. And it is not a good place. You'll become mentally destructive. Now, if it doesn't destroy your marriage, it'll probably destroy your kids. If it doesn't destroy your kids, it will definitely destroy your mental health. If it doesn't destroy your mental health, it'll destroy your health. If it doesn't destroy your health, it will definitely eventually destroy your bank account, if it doesn't destroy everything else. I've worked with business owners who go, oh yeah, that's probably partially true. 3 years later, they're going through a divorce and they want to kill themselves. Why? Because they didn't pay attention. They weren't self-aware enough to realize that that's exactly what they do. Any person who builds a business and their self-worth is attached to that business will be emotional around business. The more emotional you are around business, the more the business will be a roller coaster. and the more you'll be a mental and emotional roller coaster. This is a lot of the stuff that I teach to business owners. That's why I say, look, if you're a business owner and you want to really grow your business, shoot me a DM, which is a direct message in my Instagram. Because if you don't know a lot of the emotional triggers of running a business and you don't know how to drive people's behavior effectively through leadership, through management, through marketing, through sales, you will have massive bottlenecks and eventually it will become emotionally destructive to you, right? You have to grow faster than the business grows. Any great CEO, any great leader will tell you that. If you're not growing mentally and emotionally faster than the business is growing, you'll become the bottleneck of the company and your knowledge will become the bottleneck of the company, which is why you personally have to outgrow the growth of the business if you want it to grow. So the greatest investment is always yourself. But most business owners don't know that because their self-worth is attached to money. And so they'll go, well, why would I spend money when I can just keep making money? And then they just keep making money, but then at the same time, they keep investing money back into the business or they go and blow it on stupid shit. And then it destroys their self-worth. They feel like they're not good enough. They're not smart enough. They're stressed all the time. They're frustrated. They're mentally and emotionally triggered. They're highly reactive to staff. They're highly volatile. And then the cycle goes around. They put all this pressure on their team to make more money. The team make more money. And then they go, cool, now I can go buy shit. And then bang, they're back in the cycle again. So anyway, look, today's episode, I really wanted you all to be thinking about your mental and emotional triggers and also how you respond to seeing other people succeed and also how critical you are of others and whether you have, I guess you could say, a bias towards being mentally, emotionally triggered, which then makes you hypercritical of others, right? Because that's probably going to hold you back. Anyway, Driven Mofos, have a great day, keep kicking ass, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. I hope this episode really makes you self-reflect a little bit and dive deeper because the more you can work through this mental and emotional stuff, the more you free yourself, and the more you free yourself, the greater the life will be. Anyway, Driven Mofos, have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.